Hi, it's Jen from Shabby Fabrics, back with Table Glitz for September, and of course, we had to do the apple. We love just that time of year when the seasons change and it's time to go pick apples. I love that time of year. And of course, we couldn't just stick with the red apple. We had to celebrate all the different colors of apples that are out there. And so we have, for the placemat, the full apple, and for the coaster, the slice, which we thought was super cute. Of course, there's kits available. If you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, I encourage you to do that right now. We have a whole series of table glitz, woolly mug rugs, and all these other amazing projects that are free to watch at your convenience, fun to follow along, and we do have kits available if you want your project to look just like ours. Now, as before, you'll want to make sure you download the diagrams for both the placemat and for the coasters. If you are watching on YouTube, there'll be a link below that. If you're on our Shabby Fabrics website, you can always go to the homepage at the very bottom. There's a link that says free downloads. Go ahead and click that. You're looking for the Table Glitz for September. Now, if you watched any of the other Table Glitz, for the placemat itself, it's absolutely the same, and really for the most part for the coaster too, but I'll point out a few of the highlights of that. Again, when you get your kit, anything that's appliqued to the background, such as the stem, the leaf, the shine on the apple, and on the coasters themselves, the inner portion, the white and the seeds, will be prefused and laser cut for you, saving you a lot of time. And that's where we feel our kits have a lot of value, and we have a beautiful thread set to coordinate with that as an additional option. And of course, we love how the metallic, this is sulky metallic thread, just adds a sparkle to it, which is really pretty, especially in the dining room. When I walk by these placemats, I notice the sparkle for sure. Once you get your diagrams printed out for your placemat, tape them together as indicated, and you'll want to cut out the front and the back of each of your 4 apples, and same with the fusible webbing. Now we'll go ahead, I'm going to show you this real quick. The stem is actually sewn in the seam allowance. For that reason, we're going to go ahead and put that portion on now. And we can either put the leaf and the shine on now as well, and just be careful when we're turning the project through, or you can wait on that and put those on a little bit later. I'm going to just take that off to the side here and iron that down. I love the convenience of prefused laser cut shapes because, yes, I don't mind cutting, tracing and cutting, but I want to jump right into the part where I get to sew, I get to use, the beautiful metallic thread in the end, so it just gets me to that stage a little bit quicker. So that's ironed down, and then on the back of my apple, that's where you would just go ahead and fuse down your fusible webbing to the back of that. And it really doesn't matter if you fuse that to the back or the front. Sometimes when there's a lot of applique in the front, it's just one more layer to put the fusible batting onto the applique piece, and therefore that's why we recommend to go ahead and put it on the backing, because there's really nothing there. But it really doesn't matter whether you put that on the front or the back. You just need some fusible batting in there. And then of course you're going to put all of your layers together. I'd iron that down, and then you're going to come back as such. You're going to need to leave a side open. I like to leave a side open that's kind of more straight versus certainly wouldn't want to leave an opening here. It's much more complex to close that. So you kind of want to be a little strategic where you start. I'll probably start right in here. Go ahead and sew 1/4 of an inch all the way around. Leave an opening, simply turn that through. And then at that point, I would go ahead and get my other fusible applique shapes if I hadn't already put those down in the previous step. And you'll just peel off the paper. You'll position those down, iron them down, and stitch around. Of course, we love and highly recommend the thread director because of the way that the sulky metallic thread is wound, and most metallic thread from any manufacturer, the way that it's wound is it wants to come off straight. When you have that on a spool pin that's horizontal, it tends to have a twist to it. The thread director keeps that twist out of it, resulting in far less breakage. I don't think I can remember a time since using the thread director that I actually did break my thread. I do back down on my tension a little bit, so you might want to fiddle around with your tension to find what's right for you to avoid any kind of thread breakage. Now moving on to our coaster. Again, you'll want to, once you get your download for that placemat, you'll also be getting your download for your coaster. And I'll be using the wafer light box. This is the smaller one. I think that's the version 1. And the reason I'll be doing that is I want to make sure I'm placing my seeds exactly where they should go. Now this piece is laser cut for me. I've got fusible webbing on the back. There's really no reason for me to take that webbing off right now because my primary reason is trying to position where the seeds should go. Now I'll go ahead and get my pressing mat next to my light box because I absolutely cannot use an iron on that. It will damage my light box. So let me bring that here so the overhead camera can see what I'm doing. Now this is a fun thing. I want to show you this. When you get our laser cut kit, see all the seeds that are here? They're all nested together in one place for you in one piece, and you kind of just pop them out like that and then peel off the backing. It makes it convenient to have them all together so you're not losing little pieces. They're pretty tiny, so I love that they're all nested together. I have no reason to take that off right now, so I'm going to leave that on. And I will go ahead and peel off my paper backing to my seeds. We'll just put a couple down there. Actually, I'll put all of those in there. I want you to see how easy it is with the assistance of a light box. I was reluctant for years, you know, especially when I was a younger sewer crafter. I didn't have a lot of expendable income, and so I would tape everything up to the dining room, the patio sliding glass door, and then, you know, that kind of worked for a while. But then at night when I was wanting to craft, when my kids were asleep and there's no light coming through, that didn't work really well. I'm so glad I finally invested in light boxes as I got a little bit older. I use it all the time. So I really, if you're a little hesitant, I'm not sure I'll use that often, you do. You just find reasons and find ways to use it that you maybe hadn't even expected. So once I have that positioned, I'm just going to place those where they belong. I don't have to guess, am I in the right spot? Is this symmetrical? Is this going to look good? I'm literally just placing my seeds inside the little box where it indicates they should go. Now, without disturbing anything, I'll just bring that to my pressing mat. My heat is on about a medium setting. Just hold it there 5-6 seconds and you're good to go. I let things cool down before I start stitching. Make sure that glue is good and adhered. Okay, and then there we go. Everything's ready to go. For that reason, I really love using the, like I said, a light box because I'm not guessing where something goes at that point. Actually, I have one more thing to do, don't I? I need to go ahead and prepare this piece and then fuse that on there. Now, this coaster, because this is going to be on the top, we can avoid a side opening like we had to deal with here. We will iron our fusible to the back of one of the apples. Let's just do that real quick. I'll show you how this comes together. If I can avoid a side opening to turn it through that way, and I can actually make a slit in the top and turn it through and cover it with an applique, that's desirable. Because closing a side opening is time consuming. And it doesn't always have the finish that I'm looking for, especially if I rush my way through that. So I have that on here, right sides together. We can go ahead and take that to the sewing machine and we'll sew 1/4 inch all the way around. And let's just do that together. I want you to see this process. And these little corners, I just kind of work my way around. Don't rush that. You want a nice smooth curve. Okay, so we've done that. As you would expect, on those areas that have curves, you might want to clip in. You might even want to reduce that seam allowance down to, say, 1/8 in these areas. Go ahead and trim that up. I'm just going to trim it all the way around. Now you've seen me sew the whole thing together. So you're like, now what? How are you going to turn this through? And if you watch the previous videos, you'll know that I'm going to make a little X in the middle, a little slit to turn that through. And that's okay because I'll be covering that with my applique. The main thing I want to show you here is make sure you pull this away so that it's just this portion and you're not cutting all the way through. So let's separate that completely. I've got to make sure I've got just the single layer in there. I can feel I have just one layer. I'm just going to make a little slit there. Doesn't even need to be pretty. It's going to be all covered up. It doesn't need to be small, just enough that you know that your applique will cover. This is where I love to use this clover. I love this one. This is a new one for us, the clover. And look how I can use the point, and I can also use that beautiful arc on a project like this that has these curves. It's exactly what you want. It's exactly what you need to create that curve. So we'll come back and press that through, press it nice and flat. Now I'll go ahead and peel off my paper backing, and visually I'll just position that where I have an equal distance around that and iron that down. This is where we get to bring in all the beautiful sulky metallic thread. This is where the thread director comes into play, and we're using all this amazing thread. Again, when you're using the thread director, it makes the thread come off at the proper, it's actually no angle. It just comes off the way it was meant to come off and not twisting off a horizontal spool pin. We use a Schmetz metallic needle. That's really important. It's nice and smooth and it works beautifully with the metallic thread. Again, practice your tension setting on some scrap fabric and then just stitch to your heart's content. Of course, we stitched around that. We stitched around the white and the seeds and the beautiful threads that makes it just come to life. So thank you for letting me share the table glitz for September. I'll see you next month.